What's up, good people and others? I just came to do a quick little chit chat and then I'm going on my way. But the other day, I had the pleasure of riding and picking up this beautiful soul, and um, she just gave me a breath of fresh air meeting and listening to her. So I was grateful for that experience. But it was also a few other people that I met driving, doing Lyft. And one of the things I have noticed that I think is so interesting is that people will seem to get in my car and they either do one or two things if they, I guess, recognize me. Um, but the ones that I realize are still, I guess, have work to do on themselves, uh, they seem to be the main ones who uh, I guess, find pleasure in indirectly attempting to, uh, I guess, throw facts about myself that I am aware of in my face. And I say that these type of people are still doing work on themselves because it was another person that I had the pleasure of picking up. It's a cool lady. And we were having a good conversation, but one of the things that stuck out to me in the things that she was discussing with me is that in her celebration of herself, and it's natural for a lot of people to do, I realize that. Um, but in her celebration of herself, she still took time out to compare herself to somebody outside of herself. And I understand that for a lot of us, for a lot of people, for some innate reason, people find joy or they feel better if they can feel like they esteem themselves above somebody else due to whatever they may or may not be dealing with, and that gives them an extra sense of accomplishment. But for me, what I have found along my journey in just dealing with um, people pertaining to my situation, my life constantly being watched every day, every second, if possible. And that's just something I have to deal with. And I've accepted having to deal with that, unfortunately. Um, I've gotten to a place where it is what it is, okay? And I thought it was very interesting. For me, I'm able to celebrate myself for myself. And when I say that, I mean I can celebrate my small wins or my big wins for me, not for I did XYZ better than such and such, or I have this better than such and such, or um just underhanded things that we all have been guilty of. I've been guilty of doing it. But as I'm growing, as I'm maturing more and more daily, I realize for me, how am I truly celebrating myself if underline I'm comparing to somebody else? And I say it in that manner because when you celebrate yourself, it's not because you feel like you have to compare yourself to somebody else. In essence, you are still celebrating the person that you are trying to esteem yourself higher than. For whatever reason you do it, in essence, you are still recognizing that person. I don't think a lot of people realize that. uh I don't think I don't think they realize that that's what they're doing. You are still acknowledging the success of someone else, even by you esteeming yourself or your accomplishment over whatever it is they may be doing. And the reason I say that is because you can celebrate yourself by yourself, like based off of your own personal accomplishments. Let's say last year you were on YouTube and you made 2 videos. This year you're on YouTube, you made 10 videos. You don't have to celebrate and say, oh, I'm so grateful that my second year of YouTube, I did 10 videos, but Sally or Sue or Tina, they only did 3 videos this year, so I'm happy with my 10 videos. There is always going to be somebody in whatever field, whatever category, that is doing less, and there is also going to be someone that is doing more. But true celebration or true self-confidence is not in our ability to compare ourselves to other people. When you are confident in yourself, there's no need to compare to Sue, Sally, and Tina, because you are looking at you. Me, I'm Kashaya. I'm looking at Kashaya. So if I realize that Kashaya only did let's say 3 nail sets or whatever this year versus last year this month I did maybe 5 sets, that's a comparison to myself. It doesn't require me to compare my journey to someone else's journey. And I know we as people are able to feed off of that. We get some type of rush, okay? And it makes us feel better when we assume or, esteem ourselves better than somebody else because we're doing XYZ. But when I see people do that, to me, it's cringy. And I know all people don't have that same view, and that's fine. I'm speaking for me. And to me, it's cringy because who you are and who someone else is are 2 separate individuals. So Tina's track versus Sue's track, they are different. They're intended to be different. Now they could cross if, what God has in store for them requires them to cross paths, and there will be a point in both of their individual journeys where there will be an intersection. And at that point, Sue and Tina had something to say, okay, we cross paths here. But their journey still continues despite anybody else, period. Like, despite anybody else. And for me, in realizing that my situation is worldwide, so whether I make a video and put it online or not, I don't necessarily have to make a video and post it online because it's seen. And because I look at my situation and not anybody else's situation, what I do is naturally going to be different from what Sue and Tina might do. And I understand that 10,000%. I think social media has made it to where naturally, well, even before social media, we had it, but social media has just intensified it, where people are not comfortable in their own skin and they're not confident in who they truly are. And we see that repetitively when it comes to different trends, right? You had the BBLs, you had them veneers everybody was wanting to get when there's absolutely nothing wrong with their teeth. You had people that are getting these lip injections when there's nothing wrong with their mouth. You had people running to do just all these different things just because it was trendy. And for some people, okay, you might need some corrective procedures. That's kind of slightly different, okay? But even in that, confidence comes from you being secure in who you are. And I've said this message before, something similar to it. I'm just sharing it again because I realize that is I guess something hard to accept because I think it's ingrained in most people to compare themselves to other people for them to feel successful or secure in themselves outside of what the world's opinion of them is. And I get it just because of how society has programmed everybody. But at the end of the day, when you're dealing with anything heavy, or you might be in a pit right now in your life, whether that's with work, whether that's with your living situation, whether it's with your love life, whatever situation you are in that you consider a pit, right? One of the things that I hold tightly to me is that I have to be secure in whatever situation outside of what others say, think, or feel. And that is one of the main ways that you get through something that's so massive. That's the only way you're going to be able to get through it. If you are the type of person where you are easily influenced, regardless of you being strong-minded by your standards, but if someone can say something to you and you feel the need, like you have to run off and do XYZ, like over the weekend there was another incident that came up, and I realized, because I try my best to check my spirit, even where I have times where I might be more mellowed out, or I might be meeting somebody for the first time, and naturally we judge by appearance. It's a natural thing. Everybody does it, whether we admit to it or not. Everybody does it. And so for me, I realized I was being judgmental in my mind when it came to that. And so I had to kind of shift my perspective on the thing, right? Because I was listening to someone talk about, the importance of just connection and people knowing where you're at. My situation, the world does. So it's like, okay. But my natural, right? My flesh was listening. My flesh reverted back to my first appearance of the person, right? The person was dressed very scantily, okay? Like extremely scantily. Like if they bent over, everything was out, right? But this was also the same person who was making the comment about how, people need to know where you at because they might need to save your butt. In my mind, my first thought was, what the person said was logical. Let me state that first. What they said was logical. But in my mind, because of first appearance, right? I was thinking, you're not even dressed like you would want to be saved. Like you're dressed like you're inviting a situation. You know what I mean? As women, I think there's nothing wrong with being proud of your shape, being proud of your body, all of those things. But we put ourselves, and I know, We can't control other people. I know. I hear it all the time. I know. I hear it. I understand. I know. I'm a woman. I get it. I'm not telling anyone how to dress. All I'm saying is, at the end of the day, naturally, everybody judges our first appearance. Just like my situation. People listened, they absorbed, and they accepted everything that whoever jumped in the pot to have something to say. They accepted everything they said about me without first meeting me, without having a conversation with me, without waiting to see what would develop, what would become. Everybody just jumped on board and they were okay with whatever it was that was being dished out, that was being spewed out. They saw, oh, she does this, she does that, blah, 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 blah. Okay, cool. That was first appearance, right? Everybody is programmed in a certain way. And that was going to be one of my topics, right? How are you programmed? We, as a people, are naturally programmed to judge by first appearance. We're not supposed to, because you never know. Just because that girl was dressed real scantily, right? And her butt was literally out in her dress. Didn't have the audacity. Father. Anywho, she was dressed in a certain way that if she was in the wrong environment and something were to happen to her, naturally, as a society, most people would have said she would have invited that type of situation. Now, it does not mean just because she's dressed a certain way that she, as a woman, is not a certain way. But regardless of what anybody says, people will judge you based off of your appearance. I'm saying all of this to say, you have to be confident in who you are, right? That girl clearly was extremely confident in what she was wearing. She didn't care how long or short or absent of material it was. She didn't care about any of that. She liked what she had on. It's not my place or anybody else's place to say, whatever about her dress. Now, people who love her, they'll correct her, maybe, if that's what they felt the need to do. However, as women and men, when we are dressed a certain way, when we come across a certain way, people naturally judge by appearance. But you never truly know who the person is just because of their outer shell. So what the girl said was absolutely correct. What the girl said was absolutely correct, okay? Absolutely correct. Somebody should know where you're at, just in case someone needs to help you or you need to be saved or picked up, whatever the case may be. She was absolutely correct. However, her confidence was in herself with what she had on. She was celebrating whatever she was celebrating, and she put on what she felt like she could celebrate in. I'm saying all of this because our confidence is in ourselves. It's not in other people. It's not in what people may think of our situation. It's not in any of those things. It is literally in what do I think of me, right? When you get to a certain space in your life, a certain stage in your life where you are choosing, okay, this is what I state that I believe in. And because this is what I believe in, this is how I would choose to carry myself, then that's different, right? You carry yourself differently when you hold yourself to whatever morals you may have, right? There's a difference in how you carry yourself. It doesn't mean, just like Steve Jobs or whoever the guy was that always wore black t-shirts every day. Rich, billionaire. I don't know how much money he got. That's his business. But a wealthy person, right? He wore the same thing every day. Same thing every day. Very intelligent man. He didn't put all of his focus and worrying about what he had on, if it was the nicest this or the nicest that. He didn't care about any of that. His confidence was not in what he had on, nor was his confidence in what people thought about him wearing the same thing every day. His confidence was in the fact that, one, he was doing what he felt like he should do, and that was it. If we focus so much of our time on comparing and contrasting and getting our high, right, off of what we feel like we're doing better than someone else, there's still so much work internally that we could do better. So much work internally we could do better. Because if all of the work that you're doing and all the success and accomplishments that you feel like you have are based off of what you feel like you're accomplishing because of what somebody else isn't accomplishing, you still got work to do. You still got work to do. I was reading through Corinthians and love Paul. But I'm glad I fell on that scripture and flipping through the book, because Paul knew that regardless of what he was doing that was making other people rich, or what he was doing that maybe it wasn't as well spoken as others, his confidence was still in the fact that he felt like he could complete or do whatever it was that he was called to do. It wasn't that he was comparing to them. He could have. He did. But it wasn't that he was comparing to them. It was in the simple fact that he was confident that regardless of how his life and how the things that he accomplished or the works that he was doing for Christ were, that it was still works that he was doing, that he was completing, and that's all that mattered. It didn't matter if his speech wasn't as great as someone else's. It did not matter if he was poor and making others rich. None of that mattered. What mattered is that he was serving and doing his ministry work. That was it. So I say all that to say, we'll always have work to do. But the work is oftentimes a lot of internal work, so we can continue to be better outwardly when we meet people and deal with people. Mhm. Mhm. Yep. It's not that you got more than Tina. It's not that you got more than Sally. It's not any of that. It's not any of that. I know social media has us wired to compare, has us wired to compete, has us wired to all want to be the same thing. I'm only repeating this because clearly it is not sticking. There's so many people who claim they're a light to this and they're a light to that, and all your stuff is wrapped in what you feel like you have better than someone else. And I'm not sure if that makes you genuine or ingenuine. The Bible talks about that, what Paul was talking about it in 2 Corinthians 11 as well, when he was talking about false apostles being ingenuine because they were more concerned about, who liked them versus who didn't like them. And I think that's what happens when we compare, right? We're more concerned with, oh, well, this person did that, but I did this. And it stems from a place of wanting to be liked, wanting to be accepted, wanting to be better. When none of that matters if deep down you don't even like yourself. And how can you like yourself if you're always comparing who you are to somebody else? And that other person can't live your life. You are the only one that can live your life. Nobody else can live your life but you. But we spend so much time and so much effort worried about what somebody else is doing. Going out the way, doing extra stuff, worried about what somebody else is doing. And it has absolutely nothing to do with you or what you called to do. Mm-hmm. So, if comparing makes you feel better at the end of the day, there's work. Because you can just be you. Being you is enough. Mm-hmm. I think I got that title from a poet. I think. Anywho, being you is enough. And who you are is not a mirror. Well, sometimes you are a mirror to somebody who needs to see themselves. I guess I'm the mirror today. But yeah. Love you later.